Hello together and hello everyone after this really long day of sharing of ideas. Before COVID, only in smaller companies, startups, and among, let's say, alternative folks, it was said that hierarchies are unnecessary in any organization and could even be disruptive if you work towards a higher purpose or your why. Now the current crisis has acted as a catalyst in an incredible way, pushing many to rethink. It has very quickly become clear that the laws of command and control have hardly any effect on homeschooling or home office, even though some really tried. A learning process has begun and continued, which has felt like the liberation of a large majority of employees, something which now hardly can be turned back. So, where before was control and so called authority, trust was now required. Especially in organizations with a strong hierarchy and strict assignments of job descriptions, this has led to major organizational setbacks where there was no trust before, and management actually insisted on managing people. Suddenly, there was a kind of vacuum because the usual control mechanisms were no longer effective. But in other organizations which had previously operated in an agile manner or had eventually even adopted the strategies of teal organizations, this change to home office was much easier. The change in the understanding of leadership, as it had been introduced in such organizations for some time now, has mainly to do with a changing understanding of a need of power. So when we talk about functions of leadership, it makes sense to look at the organization itself. Especially in schools and educational organizations, we traditionally have a distinct hierarchy in the structure, often even in several dimensions. We often find a typical pyramid structure within. Very often, there is a clear hierarchy via middle leaders towards the teachers. Not always, but unfortunately often enough, the students are part of this hierarchy and often the lowermost level. In quite a few schools and educational organizations that I have been consulting over the past years, these structures were almost cemented in. Often people have even used their job description as a way of identifying themselves, which, depending on their position, has then led to an increase in their sense of personal power over others, or, on the contrary, in their feeling of powerlessness. The structure of the organization itself is what gave them the authority or the lack of it, an authority that is virtually outside of the actual person and thus makes them interchangeable. Exactly this interchangeability results in a situation in which many people that got assigned positions of authority cling all the more to these hierarchies, as they are often the only element that bestows respect to them. Because mostly they are not perceived in their valuable abilities that give them any recognition, but exclusively through their position. At the same time, the concept of obedience and submission plays a very sad role in such organizations. Submission then happens from within the structure of such systems, as it puts some people in a position that gives them the right to punish or reward others in order to get them to do whatever they want them to do. This then, but is not cooperation on the receiving side, but pure submission, and actually increases the feeling of powerlessness with the people are on the receiving end. Cooperation, on the other hand, can only happen when humans actually have the choice of whether they want to do something or not. This is the point where hierarchies and the wielding of power can actually become very expensive for any organization. What is missing is the inner motivation that forms the base for loyalty, innovation, and creativity. And what is most important, a deep sense of satisfaction and ownership among employees. This is particularly common among middle management, in my experience, in traditional school settings. Often they define themselves through their control and management functions. But also school principals often struggle with this change of perspective. What is the task of a school headmaster when the team organizes itself and decisions are made independently within the teams? Should he or she just not think through? And what is the value they add or the purpose they have in this organization? The understanding becomes much clearer if you take a closer look at an agile or teal organization. On the one hand, there are the teams that do not form according to their function, but ideally according to the interest, ideas, and skills. These teams organize themselves, have a clearly defined goal, and decide independently how they can achieve this goal. At the end and after the evaluation of a project, these teams separate again and may find themselves in completely different constellations in another project. The team and the project will be organized together and on the base of a set of jointly developed rules. A cycle of reflection, idea, project, implementation, evaluation, and new reflection is created. On the other hand, there is the organization itself. It is not longer assumed that an organization is some kind of a mechanical construct, but on the contrary, a kind of an organic structure that has its own needs and pursues a clear purpose. And this is exactly where the new position of the leader begins. Instead of being responsible for control and the assignment of work and staff management, decision making, or other management functions, the leader is now in a position that truly serves the organization itself. That means the main task is actually to always carefully listen to the needs of the organization itself, to the teams, obviously to the individual employees, and then to develop strategies, ideas, and support and facilitate the development of the individuals and the organization. One of the most important steps in this process is self-leadership. Without intending to and working on myself, I cannot support an organization in its transformation. Honestly, I personally feel the same way every time. Whenever I come to an organization as a consultant, I make myself very conscious of the fact that this also means a new transformation process for myself, on a very personal level very often. A transformation can only ever happen systemically and, above all, holistically. We cannot transform others, but we can transform ourselves together with others. And we cannot make others do something, but we can inspire them through our own transformation energy to join us in our journey. And yes, of course, we can use many different tools for this. Could be agile tools or other tools. But at the end, the development of an organization stands and falls with the will and the implementation motivation of each individual participant. And it is precisely here that the importance of leadership is to be sought and found. As part of the leadership of such company, it is essential to pay close attention to maintaining this very deep intrinsic motivation for change and development among staff. This is quite easy in the beginning, sometimes very hard in the beginning, but usually it's more easy in the beginning. But to maintain it and making sure that everyone stays on board and on the task needs a true leader and an inspiring leader. With the individual people in my organization, it is a matter of reflecting again and again on how I can ensure that they always have work that gives them satisfaction and joy. Being a leader, the purpose is to promote deep human connections that go far beyond the purely professional and allowing real contact, not just in a team building activity where we take people outside somewhere and play a bit, but continuously through their daily work. As a leader, I am the one that has to create the time and space for this and promote a culture that allows to address fears, vulnerability, personal challenges, that allows the expression of needs, but also of pride for what has been achieved and the hope for recognition, and that ensures that everyone experiences joy and personal growth in their working environment. In practical terms, it can begin by taking a close look at where I see my own interests and strengths, and in which roles I feel less comfortable, less at home, or even overburdened. What would I like to continue doing, and what would I like to let go of? By consciously stepping back from some roles, you automatically create a space where others feel invited to take on of the roles and to excel in it. In this restructuring process of organizations and leadership, space and time are gained above all from the fact that previously very dominant roles are now disappearing. On the one hand, there is the decision making on content, which is mostly responsible for meeting marathons. On the other hand, the permanent push that has to be created to ensure that the machine is going and the people are functioning and moving is disappearing as well. Be an inviting leader. Be yourself in your humanness and maintain the deep human connection with other people in your environment, even and especially when disagreements occur or challenges set the structure under pressure. Listen carefully, connect deeply, and mediate compassionately. Be the role model of change. Whatever you want to see within your classrooms, role model also within your team and your organization. You have to be the change you want to see. Just like in the classroom, facilitate learning and lifelong learning, lead from the back. Concentrate on humanness of people and not on the labels. Support inquiries, creativity, and innovation. Offer personalized strategies. Be inclusive. Get everyone on board. Nurture critical thinking and discourse. Be open, mindful, and compassionate. Offer something you find valuable for yourself and where you hope it might be valuable for others. This is not a management task, but that of a true leader. A task that makes the manager redundant, because the space is needed for a true humanized leader. And I am looking forward now to any questions, thoughts your own experiences, and whatever you like to share. Thank you very much for your interest.